Hello, everyone. Thank you for attending our is Eldar Rapaport, and for those of you who don't know, as the name suggests, MRM Commerce is the commerce offering of MRM. We offer end-to-end solutions in the commerce space, from strategy, business to UX, design, data, development, and implementation. We are a global organization, which leads us to work with many diverse global clients, but also with many partners. Today, we're going to talk about designing e-commerce experiences that customers love, featuring the fabulous KASHIYAMA, which is what I'm wearing right now. Not too many opportunities to dress up these days and walk outside, so I'm happy to have this. I want to thank all the partners who helped us pull this together, namely Akinio, Magento, and Threekit. A brief description about each one of them. Akinio is a global leader in product experience management solutions. They help merchants and brands deliver compelling customer experiences across all sales channels. Akinio's solutions enable marketers to craft compelling product experiences, and their PXM suite includes Akinio PIM, an open source product information management solution designed to enrich product data and create your catalog. Magento, everybody I'm sure is familiar with, and particularly Magento Commerce, which is a part of the Adobe Experience Cloud, is the leading commerce solution for merchants and brands across B2C and B2B industries, and was recently named a leader in the 2019 Gartner Magic Quadrant for digital commerce. Magento Commerce boosts a strong portfolio of cloud-based omni-channel solutions that empower merchants to successfully integrate digital and physical shopping experiences. And finally, Threekit is a platform for 3D product visualization and augmented reality that enable brands to create and manage product visuals at scale. So thank you again for all the partners that are joining us, and obviously to KASHIYAMA. To introduce KASHIYAMA, let me introduce Vijay McCahill, VP of KASHIYAMA. Vijay?
Oh, thanks, Eldar. I'll start with a little background on me. I'm the vice president here at KASHIYAMA, and I've been really in charge of launching the brand in the US market, even though it was founded originally in Japan. So initially really worked to expand the physical retail presence and also kind of launching the brand voice and e-commerce experience online with the team at MRM. Additionally, now we're working on kind of expanding the framework we built in the US to the Chinese market. So that's kind of our next launch with the MRM team as well. And I also spend a lot of time working with our pattern makers and tailors because I feel like it's really important to understand the fit and fabrication of the garments that you're selling, because it's hugely important to live up to consumers' expectations in the kind of ever-changing environment. And a little bit of background on the brand. So we were founded in Japan in 2017, but we're a part of the Onward group, which is a grouping of about 50 plus brands, mostly in Asia and Europe, but also here in the US, that started in 1927. And we used our long kind of history with the apparel business to launch the custom-made brand in 2017, which was KASHIYAMA. Which was the made-to-measure division. It was, really successful right out of the gate in Japan. We were able to offer some pretty low prices and deliver kind of that high quality that the Onward grouping clients kind of expect. We've got a lot of long-standing partnerships with mills, so that became incredibly important for this project as well, because we're able to buy fabrics for 50 plus brands. We can kind of leverage that opportunity to kind of deliver lower pricing to our clients for some really impressive mills. And we've also got, I would say, a strong commitment to the state-of-the-art production facility. We built what's called our Smart Factory, where we're able to use kind of this cutting-edge technology and also reduce overhead because we own these factories. There's no middleman, so that's kind of a great way to pass along the savings to our consumer group. And an exciting thing about today is that one of you will get a free custom two-piece suit just for attending. I know So
Right, so if you want to reduce your chances of window, feel free to use the Q&A tab functionality in Zoom to post any questions, and then we can tackle them at the end of the session. All right, let's talk about designing e-commerce experiences. And let's start at the beginning. So BJ, you and I first sat together about a year ago to discuss KASHIYAMA and how important commerce presence was for the brand. Can you talk a little bit about that and about the decision to go with Magento?
Sure. Obviously, it's a pretty unique brand. I think the biggest kind of unique aspect is the configurations that we offer. I think when we totaled it up, there were like 1.2 million combinations of different suits that you can get because we offer over 200 fabrics, dozens of customizations, and then from there we've got over 200 different measurement profiles as well. So it's super highly configurable, and that's not something just any platform can kind of handle. So that was, I think, a big reason for choosing Magento, was that custom nature that we offer. Additionally, we knew there were a lot of other areas where they wanted to expand, including some of those countries in Asia that we've mentioned, and Magento is easily transferable into those markets. So that was very important to us as well. And additionally, we knew we had a lot of integrations that we needed to kind of apply to the site. So things like our shipping partner, DHL, and some of the other partners here today, like Threekit. And Magento made it pretty easy to kind of input those pretty simply, and then also reduce the number of those that we needed through some of their out-of-the-box capabilities that we realized that they had kind of already, that would help us kind of deliver that great customer experience that I think the US consumer was looking for, especially with such a complex project, as I mentioned.
Right, and then to add that there were many complexities that we had to go through, different cultures, different countries, different backend systems that we had to tie into, different integrations, like you said, Threekit, Simply Book Me, a bunch of other integrations that we had to make sure to tie into the total experience of what we wanted.
Definitely, and as I mentioned, our smart factory, we also have what they call a customized system. And we needed to kind of integrate that with Magento specifically because that was already established in Japan. We had to figure out a way to make that work for ordering here for the US consumer base.
Right. And like we said, there aren't too many products, right? There are talking about, but within that, maybe not too many products, there's still so many customizations and so many combinations, like you said, over 1 million, that we had to tie each one of them on the back end to the back end system that existed and the factory to then go ahead and produce those garments.
Exactly, and our Skew system is very different than most other brands. So, I mean, even though maybe we're only offering, say, 200 fabrics, which kind of constitute the Skew, with that over 1 million combinations, you have to be able to configure it without creating kind of like a ghost Skew, because that it's very messy for accounting.
Yeah, and how often do you update your offering, your suits?
So typically we have 2 main launches per year, so autumn, winter, and then spring and summer. But we sometimes do kind of seasonal injections, we call them. So like a special summer group. And
the 2 main collections.
Exactly. And as we've kind of gotten consumer feedback from our stores in the US where we started, we've been able to get what we call American exclusive fabrics, so things that kind of resonate with the taste of the US client, which may be something different than what they're looking for in Japan or China. I'd say Americans like a little bit of brighter colors and some more fun patterns, and are using it for more kind of like fashion events and those kind of things. And in Japan, it's much more of a business consumer that we see coming through the doors of the shops there.
So that was another consideration, I'm sure, to see that any update of such matter and products can be easily that work and be easily done.
And I'm sure you know how many spreadsheets we have that just kind of make up that product assortment that we have.
Yeah, in Japanese.
Yes.
Perhaps it's worth mentioning again, the experience of KASHIYAMA is quite unique, right? Because of the customization, it's a made-to-measure suit. It's not bespoke, so we've all had to sort of experience that uniqueness in having a stylist help you with measurements, with selection, with educating you on the garment and how that works. And I know that experience was important. So part of that experience, we decided to go with the Threekit player, right? The configurator, because we wanted to match sort of the experience that the brick and mortar can offer. Talk a little bit about how or why choosing a 3D image rendering player was so important for the brand.
Yeah, so it was hugely kind of important while we were kind of deciding about this product. We knew that with so many combinations, it can be really cumbersome to kind of do photo shoots for all of that. And previous retailers that I've worked with, you know, shooting every season, it's really, really expensive. And it also actually produced a lot of waste because you're usually making samples in every type of fit and fabrication that you have. With this, we actually just have to create the 3D image with the Threekit software, and that way we don't necessarily have to shoot every single garment in our catalog. We're able to just kind of create that rendering, which heavily reduces on costs of those kind of product photo shoots, and also really reduce on that waste, as I mentioned. And from the consumer side, consumers really like being able to build and configure their product even before going into a store. I think a lot of consumers really like to do their research ahead of time. And their time is really important. So it's great that now we kind of can do this on the go. They can do it on their phone or iPad, even on their commute if they still have one. Many consumers, especially males that we work with typically, they tend to be really visual. So they kind of need to see things and may have a difficult time kind of imagining it if it's not right in front of them. Like that's, I guess, not a complaint we get in the store, but a comment we get in the store all the time is that a client wants to see everything in front of them. And now they're actually able to get this rendering, even if we don't have a physical sample on a mannequin or on a stylist in person, they can get that idea of what it's going to look like. There's a lot of trust, I think, that goes into, you know, a client transaction where they're coming into the store, they're paying us, but they're not leaving with any product. So the more that we can kind of show them what they're going to be getting, it kind of alleviates that
Hang up.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I know that we looked at a bunch of quality processing time. We looked at the workstream monitoring process that landed with
sometimes we maybe look at
in the end.
loading speed. That's really important, especially as I mentioned, if a client's doing this on a go or doing it in a store with a stylist. Their time is precious, so loading time is key. And I know the way Threekit builds their renders, they do it in layers. And so each time you're loading a different configuration, so changing a lapel or a pocket, you're not reloading the full image inside the player, you're just kind of reloading that area. So it really helps with that load time. And also I know it really reduces on the number of renders that need to be created because we don't have to create a full, 1.2 million renders. We can just create those different layers that can then be combined into the suit that our client will be purchasing.
Right. And currently the experience is that a customer goes onto the site, they choose their different customization, and they make a selection. And then at the very end, they have to go into the store to get measured, because it was really important for you throughout that experience to make sure that customers are being measured correctly, because that's your premise of the entire business, right? To make sure to say, we know your size, we make it, made to measure. The chances that it doesn't fit are really slim. It can happen, but it's slim. And then we're moving on to, I think, accelerated by the COVID situation, we are moving into allowing them to self-checkout once their measurement is in, but also slowly to help them measure themselves from home as well. So all of that stuff will probably enable a enhanced experience.
Yeah, definitely. We've got a lot in the works in terms of that. I think the client self-checkout will be coming in the next couple of days, actually. And this kind of allows the consumer to start their journey in different places so they can start online or offline and then transition easily. So we wanted to make it as truly an omni-channel experience as we could for the client, depending on how they first hear about the brand.
Right. So I know one thing that we haven't implemented yet was a PIM, right, or a product information management. But I know that we did talk about it and the importance of it. So can you talk through common challenges you think people face with PIM and the importance of having accurate product information, no matter what you were selling?
Definitely, yeah. We've definitely considered this heavily. As I mentioned, the catalog that we have, even though it technically is small, it is very, very complicated with many, many spreadsheets that our team in Japan is kind of responsible for managing. So I know with PIM, we can really kind of simplify that. And also a big important part for us was being able to really localize the content and make it specific for the different markets and different languages that we'll be operating in. I know a big challenge we had here was when we finally were inputting our product information into the US site, a lot of the text was coming up in Japanese characters. And essentially to fix that, we had to go one by one through the spreadsheet and have someone translate those and then ensure it was the proper English, the proper spelling, the proper text and description. And then we had to do that really one by one. So it was pretty time consuming. And as I mentioned, we launch collections twice a year, sometimes more. So that's something that will be ongoing for us. And I know that it's something that we would like to reduce the time that's kind of spent doing that and also make sure that it's kind of presented correctly to all consumers without having to, check every single day that our catalog is being displayed correctly to them.
So wait, what's the current process right now? You're updating your collection in a few months. From a product's perspective, what is the process of, image, information about the product? Do you have a work stream internally that you would like to then make more efficient? I mean, you mentioned a little bit, but how would, looking at the collection that's coming?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, a lot of the information is housed in different locations, and I think that can be problematic for a host of reasons. So as you mentioned, imagery is housed in one location, in one server and in one country, and other data is stored in another country and in 7 different spreadsheets based off of what type of product it is. And then coupled with that, we have all of the fit data that needs to be managed as well in terms of the catalog. And so making sure we have every piece is very important. So sometimes an image can be missing because it's mislabeled and doesn't match the product that's in one of the Excel spreadsheets that manage that in place. That we're definitely looking for as we countries as well.
And as we said, we are our next launch would be in China. So we are using the same Magento instance and the same. We don't have to we do everything that we've done for the US. We're using that on the front end. We're actually implementing WeChat development with our colleagues in Shanghai, MRM Shanghai, to implement that, and then we're going to roll out in the other territories as well. I think the $1 million question obviously is the current situation in COVID and the great disruption that it offered. I remember early in the day, I remember one email from you that you sent out, a newsletter that basically mentioned everybody that your suits are COVID-free. This is what you had to deal with at the time, because people thought, it's shipped from China, but it doesn't have COVID on it. Which, boggles the mind sometimes, but I guess this is a psychological barrier that people have to pass through. But another psychological barrier would be the spending time with a stylist. People may not be that comfortable spending some time, so much time with a stylist, which you told me actually it's not true. So why don't you explain why that is not true? And still, how do you see sort of like the dramatic shift in purchasing landscape affecting KASHIYAMA? And out of that, which opportunities you think can arise?
Yeah, definitely. It's been, an interesting time, I think, for everyone. But in terms of, our client-facing messaging, we ensure that everyone knows before they come in, all the different safety and hygiene things that we've implemented in all the stores to make sure that they feel safe. And so far, most clients have felt very comfortable coming in. The biggest thing I think is that because it's a one-on-one experience, it's not like a big box retailer where there could be dozens of other people around. It tends to be a smaller, less chaotic environment. And I think that really helps. I think the fewer people that are around, the more comfortable clients feel. We've got two types of shops. So we've got what we call our guide shops, which are located in strategic co-working spaces in the US. So those are a true one-on-one experience. It's just one staff member and the one guest at a time. So very private. We're able to, close the showroom briefly afterwards for, a cleaning, steam cleaning all the try-on garments and setting them aside for a period of time. And then even in our street locations that we call showrooms that we've got now in New York, Charlotte, and Boston, it's still, a less chaotic environment. It's still smaller. We've kind of set up separate fitting areas so you're not overlapping in any intense way. So I think most clients have felt great about that, but that was also an important part of launching the e-commerce system as our in-store experience, because it really speeds up the appointment. So a stylist is able to enter the measurements right on the tablet. They're able to load those customizations really quickly thanks to the Threekit experience, and that helps speed up the appointment so people aren't there any longer than they feel comfortable. They're also able to do that design portion at home now. It's waiting in their cart for their stylist to kind of apply those measurements. So they may want some advice on it, but for the most part, they could be already, fully designed by the time they get to the store. And conversely, once we launch the self-checkout portion in a couple of days, they will be able to go in, get those measurements, and then head home and do the styling there. So they're, out of their house a little bit less, which I think.
Right. So it's a two-way, right? Either you do the customization beforehand, or you can do that after you get measured. And just to point out again that the same sort of site or instance has two entry points, one for the customers and one for the stylists. Stylists, when they log in, they see a little bit, a little different of a interface, which allows them obviously to see your account and then place the order for you and the measurements and do all the different, different variations and revisions.
Definitely.
But I know that we also talked about the sort of how we can offer, we look at the product itself, we look at innovation, we look at, the different technologies that are import that, but I mean, these are the thought, right? The thought-provoking sort of rationale to kind of like look at what else can be done and take that as an opportunity to move forward.
Yeah, we've looked at a few pathways. I mean, there's, very simple measuring technologies. There are also technologies that kind of let you convert kind of current clothing that you have into other sizing. So those are kind of simple things we've looked at, a way to offer maybe our simpler products like our modern tailor, which is kind of a casual suit through the website without maybe going in. We've also looked at this in terms of shirting. And then on top of that, there are the more complex measuring tools that we kind of looked at NRF and some other places. And while they can be really accurate at getting client sizes and client body measurements, it may not be exactly the fit preference of that client. So even if you and I are the exact same size, we may wear our clothing in two very different ways. And so on top of just getting accurate measurements, you have to really take that fit preference into account. And on a complicated garment like a suit, there are over 40 places that we can take measurements. And so it actually gets pretty detailed. And we want to make sure that we're giving our clients, the best fitting garment that they can. I think clients are pretty discerning about the fit of clothing now. It's a little bit different than, a few years ago. And so we want to try not to try not to tarnish the brand name by sending something that is ill-fitting. We want to make sure that they're getting something great right out of the box, or as close as can be.
Have you noticed any other shifts in behavior as far as consumers or clients? I mean, you said that it speeds up the, the customization process or the measurement process and whatnot, but are there any other behavioral trends that you've noticed after this period?
I think those are some of the big ones, but we have noticed a shift in what type of products people are looking for. I think that's been a big change. So as I mentioned, our casual suiting had just kind of launched a little bit prior to the pandemic. It was still just kind of picking up speed in the US, but we've seen that kind of really explode with consumer tastes now, because people are looking for something a little bit more casual, a little bit more comfortable to wear on Zoom calls just like this, while still looking, really polished, but maybe they don't need the full suit that they're not wearing 5 days a week at the office anymore. There are a lot fewer events that we need tuxedos for, so people have really shifted towards kind of that casual suiting option. And additionally, we just launched our men's shirting program in the US, so we kind of sped that up a little bit because we knew there was a consumer demand for that based off of some of the other brands owned by Onward Group, what products are already selling, and a big one is the shirting category. So those have just launched in store, but I know we're trying to launch online as quickly as possible. Whereas I think initially the plan was to have those kind of be an in-store exclusive to encourage people to come in and get those measurements. Now we really want to offer that online kind of as quickly as can be.
Yep. So this is again a reminder to post any questions. This would be the time to do that so we can answer them. First question is, what markets are you planning on expanding into or have already? And how do you decide where to expand next?
Definitely. So I know initially the brand was founded in Japan with just a few guide shops there, but now they've grown to over 50 locations in just around 3 years. So really rapid expansion for that market. Next, it was decided to expand into the US market because there is a huge demographic of people who were purchasing custom suiting. It's obviously a huge population as well. And the Onward Group is already set up here with some other brand partnerships that they have, and they own the brand J Press as well. That's kind of situated here, mostly in the Northeast kind of corridor. So that's initially kind of how we determine our locations, by using some of the similar locations that our brand had experience in. And then beyond that, we looked at other cities that were growing. So Charlotte is a pretty good example of that. There's a huge booming business market there. It's the Bank of America headquarters. That location, and then sort of in the near future, hopefully once things kind of begin to open up again safely. And beyond that, there are other countries that the brand is interested in. I know Canada, the UK, those kind of places are definitely of interest to the group. And as we mentioned, China is going to be big for us. Obviously, there's a giant population and growing disposable income there. So right now, I think we just have 3 shop locations, but obviously the goal is to kind of increase that exponentially over the next couple of years. As I said, things begin to open up as well.
And then the sort of like satellite markets, right, around China. I think we mentioned Taiwan at one point, Hong Kong. So those as well.
Definitely, yeah. And the Onward Group has kind of subsidiaries in many of those markets, and so they have some good infrastructure already kind of in place for those locations. So it's fairly easy to open up for them, especially if we're able to transfer the e-commerce experience pretty seamlessly, as we hope to do.
So how does your strategy differ from market to market? I mean, I know that you said, profiles in Japan are different than the ones in the US, for example. But how does that, what basically dictate your, how to, you go to market plan for different markets?
For sure. So I think initially when I, worked on kind of expanding in the US, the first thing I did was really analyze the business in the Japanese market and kind of see what differences in clients we have here. And then once we kind of started our soft openings in the US, what was really important to us was really listening to our consumers and our stylists that were interacting with them every day. So getting that anecdotal feedback was hugely important. That helps us really tailor the brand, for lack of a better word, for the market. We, as I mentioned, created some US exclusive fabrications for our consumers. We also actually had to, probably not a surprise, had to change some of the fits of our garments as well. The American body can be a little bit different than the Japanese body. So creating different fit patterns was very important, and also kind of expanding some of the measurement ranges that we offer. So in Japan, the way the program is structured, most of these ranges for measurements are pretty small. That way, if as a stylist, it's difficult to, I guess, make a mistake, which is a good thing. But in the US, the ratio of someone's stomach to hips to chest can be very, very different. And so we had to change the pattern structure with the pattern team in Japan so that we could kind of expand those offerings, and also make sure that our factory production system was able to handle cutting those pieces and constructing them as well, which became very important for us.
Marketing wise, we keep always the aesthetic of the brand. I think people look at it and see that Japanese sort of cleanliness, innovation. So that was important as well, right? I know that, when you came to the US, you also looked at, you reshot some videos, and we talked a little bit about that. And then the pandemic happened, but that's part of some sort of new market thinking as well.
Definitely. Maintaining that heritage was very important to us. I think that's one of the key brand pillars that we have, is just that long history. Being around since 1927 obviously is huge. We're almost at our 100-year anniversary. So staying true to that's very important, while also still, localizing for the US market. I think a big example that we're working on now is a marketing push for wedding. It's not necessarily typical to have a wedding party all in matching suits in Japan. They may not even wear, a formal suit or a formal tuxedo as the groom. And so that's obviously not content that we're able to necessarily get or share with our Japanese counterparts. So it's something we have to kind of produce here because that American wedding aesthetic is very unique to the market.
I'm reading a next question. Do you have any unique KPIs you want to use, that you use?
Yes. So obviously we use some of the traditional standard ones like average order value, those type of things. What is pretty unique with this brand is they also call it fit rate. So like how well all the garments are fitting, kind of have a fit promise, these iterations percent to a minimum. And we can use these KPIs internally to kind of train stylists. You'll usually see patterns emerge of, what measurements maybe someone needs to work on. But if we keep track of those, we can really kind of reduce any kind of cost associated with those alterations that we, kind of incur as a brand.
Here's a good one. Not that the others weren't good. What new approaches to UX are you interested in that you aren't doing yet? So the sky is the limit here, right? But think in terms of what you want to do next.
Yeah, for sure. I think, we've got a list a mile long of things that we want to do. But, we want to be cautious and also have, clients using the site at home and in store and see what kind of comments they have as well, because obviously they're the ones using it. We kind of touched on it, but the measuring aspect, I think, is the big maybe UX change that we'd want to make. So we're looking at ways for clients to purchase modern tailor and shirting, maybe without going into a store. So we've looked at ways to kind of lay out those measurements in a simple way to not overwhelm them. Like many clients can kind of determine if they like something, slim, kind of average or more classic fit, but they may not know that their waist is exactly like 44 centimeters or something like that.
Right.
So we want to try to simplify that and lay it out in the cleanest way, but a way that is still, very accurate so that they are receiving that high quality of fit that they, should expect from the brand.
Right. And I think the whole approach, talking through this, obviously, and again, I don't know, we haven't mentioned that, but this was launched as PWA, which was a progressive web app. And that enabled us to kind of like extend the slickness of the whole experience onto the execution, right? And then even with the stylist opening the site on an iPad or a tablet device, then it would be sort of like mimicking the process or the experience of an app. So I think extending that to the sort of the strategy of clean UX, simple, that can transcend boundaries, physical territories, because that had to be checked and understood by people from across the pond on the other side. That's something that guided us throughout.
Yeah, it was really important, and seeing it live now is great. As I mentioned, clients are able to start at home and finish in store, and that is amazing. I think the fact that we didn't build an app allowed that to happen because it's able to pass a little bit more seamlessly between our traditional website and the PWA instead of like a separate application that maybe that data can't flow as directly through. So that was an important thing and something that turned out great for us.
One more question. What has feedback been like so far?
Oh, feedback. Yeah, it's been, I think, great so far. Both hearing from the
stylists and customers.
Yeah, so I think the stylists were very excited because before the process was a lot more manual. There was a lot of inputs that had to be done, I guess, after the client left the store. And now they're able to do all of this right in front of the client, and that way they don't have to spend a lot of their downtime doing like data entry. We were able to do and change a lot of things to be just like simple drop-down menus, simple scroll menus, which really, really speeds up a lot of their appointment times, as we mentioned, and also reduces a lot of paperwork, which was, I think, really burdensome before. They had these big filing cabinets. They had to keep lots of paper records that are now gone. So that is amazing. And I don't know if we touched on it yet, but we have Magento BI as well. So we have a lot of analysis of our different guide shops and stylist performance. And a lot of that had to be tracked just with an Excel spreadsheet before, but we've been able to simplify a lot of that with the BI tool. So that was huge for us. And for consumer feedback, I think everyone has been we really stand that has different as what we've got on there. So we've gotten lots of compliments on that from the clients as well.
All right, I don't see any further questions. So I think we have a couple minutes left. Obviously, I invite everybody to go visit KASHIYAMA1927.com and experience that experience for yourself. But we can end with that promised raffle. I don't know if you have that.
Yes, I just received it. So it looks like, let me see if I can say this correctly, Brian Kammerer, you're the winner, and someone from MRM Commerce from the marketing team will reach out about redeeming that prize. So congratulations. We can't wait to get you suited up in one of our locations.
It's a great suit. I can vouch for that. Okay, cool. So BJ, thank you very much. Thank you to our partners. Any follow-up questions, feel free to send over, and we shall do this again.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.